And now we move over to Randy, who will enlighten us, nay, inspire us with the glorious rundown of college football across its many divisions, many levels, and even crossing a border.
Yeah. Every week I look at some of these scores and I think, man, I want to add all these scores to the rundown, but there's just so many, and still I have a ton of them.
Unless you want to add them in post, and we just put the Benny Hill music to them, and we just run through every game possible. It might take us a couple minutes, but we could do it.
No, but let's start with the FBS level. Number 1 Alabama squeaked by number 11 Florida, 31-29. Did you see much of this game?
I did not. Other than because it was Saturday, and that's when I was at the birthday party. Other than seeing that they were up for a while, then to see that final score, and I was a little surprised that they even let Florida back into that game. But again, Florida, number 11 team in the country, also an SEC rival. You probably would expect nothing less from an SEC school to compete with another SEC school.
Well, Alabama played a lower level team last week,
they played Mercer last week, I believe.
and of course they beat up on them. So now they play another ranked team and barely beat them. So they need that kind of competition, I think, if they want to stay number 1. Let's see, number 2 Georgia over South Carolina, 40-13. It was number 3 Oklahoma over Nebraska, 23-16. And at number 4, Oregon this week over an FCS team, Stony Brook, by the score of 48-7. In other top 25 scores, number 10 Penn State over number 22 Auburn, 28-20. This was their annual whiteout game.
Oh, these are
great pictures.
Always great to see a whiteout game at Penn State. They pull it off so well. Anytime a school does a whatever color out game, a blackout game, a whiteout game, a gold out game, whatever you want to call it, it's always so cool.
Everybody, wearing white. I don't know if they all had white pom-poms or something, but
Probably.
that whole stadium was just a sea of white. And to see some of the aerial shots of the packed house with everybody in white, it was awesome. And Michigan had something similar too. I don't know if it was this week or not, but I saw pictures of Michigan Stadium where everybody was wearing gold, pretty much.
Maize.
Maize. Maize.
A maize out.
But I love stuff like that.
That's what makes college so unique and special compared to the NFL. You might get an NFL game where they'll say, "Hey, it's a blackout game, wear your black shirts or whatever." But college football does it so well.
Yeah, in the NFL, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to wear what I want. I'm paying so much for these tickets." But in college, they tell you to wear black, you're going to wear black or any color. Wear rainbow colors this week. Everybody's going to do it because that's what the team told them.
It's just a whole different atmosphere. It's more community based. I think these NFL teams, while they're in a community, I mean, it's not like what a college team does for a local community at all. It's totally different level.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Number 16, Coastal Carolina held off Buffalo from the MAC by the score of 28-25. So good for Buffalo.
Always love seeing a MAC school
pushing the number 16 team right to the edge.
I love seeing MAC schools compete with these bigger. We always, like when Western made their run, we always talk about that. It was great seeing them play with the Big Ten teams and beating Big Ten teams, hanging with Big Ten teams.
They weren't always beating them, but a couple years ago they did. They beat a couple of Big Ten teams the year they went to the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah,
but,
they hung with Wisconsin.
But they usually play a Big Ten team or at least 2 really big major schools every year before they get into the conference.
But that goes across for all these MAC schools. Sometimes, once in a while, you'll see a MAC school really just like outplay a big school. Whether or not the MAC school is that much better, maybe it's just they caught them by surprise. Maybe they were underestimated going into the game.
Yep.
What have you? So I just love seeing like that they put them to the test, and it helps feel like the MAC is validated. Like they're not just some lower division college football that doesn't belong. I mean,
they're not just there to pick up a paycheck by playing a bigger school, but they're there to get better.
Now, are there some times where a team gets blown out, like Western did against Michigan a couple weeks ago? Sure, it happens. Yeah. But hey, sometimes you get a result like this, and these are the results we want. And shoot, we have another MAC school we'll talk about, or you'll talk about in a second, that did put it to a big name school. So we'll get there in a minute.
All right, in some upsets this week was Fresno State upsetting number 13 UCLA by the score of 40-37. West Virginia upsets number 15 Virginia Tech 27-21. Michigan State upsets number 24 Miami of Florida by the score of 38-17. And Western Michigan, our beloved Broncos, you could say this was an upset over the ACC school Pittsburgh by the score of 44-41. This game was not on TV around here. I wanted to see it so bad. I grabbed my laptop and I went to ESPN Plus and I pulled up the game. It was really spotty, my internet connection, so I didn't get to see most of the game.
Awful.
But I got it back up towards the end of the game, and I watched the last few minutes, and what an awesome end of the game.
Yeah, first win over a Power 5 school since 2017.
Yep.
Heck of a job for the Broncos, and like that was what I'm talking about. This is a MAC school beating an ACC team.
Right.
ACC is a Power 5 conference.
Yep.
So it's great to see that. I mean, Pittsburgh's not not the elite ACC team, but still, it's an ACC team. Right. I'd be impressed if a MAC school beat Western did that the year they went to the Cotton Bowl. You beat your lower tier like Illinois. I want to say they're like mid tier, but Pittsburgh's like a mid tier ACC team. So it's still great to see Western bounce back after
on the road.
Yeah. And after they got shellacked by Michigan, then they kind of got a cream puff in an FCS school last week that you went and saw.
Right.
And then now you play an ACC school, a Power 5 school, and you beat them. I don't care if it's 44-41 or if it's 3-0. Western, got the win, and that's all we're going to talk about.
Yep.
Good job, Western.
They were in a position to run out the clock at the end, and that was great. Just really, really fun to watch that at the end of the game. I wish I could have watched the whole thing, but didn't happen.
And we'll talk a little bit more about Western later in the news, too.
Yeah. All right, blowouts and shutouts. Number 17, Ole Miss over Tulane, 61-21. Number 25, Michigan over Northern Illinois, which is a MAC school, 63-10. Syracuse over an FCS school, Albany of New York, 62-24. Washington over Arkansas State, 52-3. Tennessee shut out an FCS school, Tennessee Tech, by the score of 56-0. Texas shut out Rice, 58-0. Houston shut out FCS Grambling, 45-0. Oregon State shut out Idaho, 42-0. Number 7, Texas A&M shut out New Mexico, 34-0. And Minnesota shut out Colorado by the score of 30-0. So, I mean, some of those were, big school beating up on another big school.
Yeah.
It's not always the FCS schools or lower level schools that they beat up on. Sometimes they're beating up on the bigger schools that just aren't very good this year.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, moving on to the military academies. It was Army over UConn, 52-21. And Utah State over Air Force, 49-45. I caught the tail end of this game, and I thought Air Force was going to win this game, but they had some turnovers, I think, at the end of the game and wound up losing. But in a losing cause, Air Force racked up 437 yards rushing in this game. They had two running backs that were both over 100 yards, and their quarterback, Hazik Daniels, also had 95 yards rushing. So three guys, almost 300 yards just in those three guys. So in a losing cause.
Yeah,
it's disappointing that they didn't get the win. But and then Navy did not play this week. So that's it for the military academies. So let's look at some of the lower level spotlight scores. In the FCS, it was Harvard defeating Georgetown 44-9. In Division II, it was Slippery Rock over Lock Haven 57-7. Division III, it was the Colorado School of Mines shutting out Fort Lewis by the score of 76-0. At the NAIA level, it was Tuskegee University over Edward Waters of Florida 23-6. In the National Junior College Athletic Association, our beloved Snow Badgers got their third win in a row of the season, defeating the McDougal Technical Institute by the score of 84-7. And in 3 games this year, Snow College has outscored their opponents 232-7.
Dang.
Good for Snow College. They've had some lean years. They've had some good years. Played in some national championship games, but they're on a fast start this year. Of course, their opponents are a little suspect right now, but we'll see. All right, U Sports in Canada, college football in Canada. It was the Concordia Stingers over the McGill Redbirds, 36-33 in overtime in the 57th Shaughnessy Cup football game. Now, I knew nothing about this. I was just looking for scores, and I saw a little note saying, that this was the Shaughnessy Cup, and I didn't know what it was. But the Shaughnessy Cup is named after legendary McGill coach Frank Shaughnessy, who was inducted into the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame as a builder back in 1963. He introduced the forward pass to college football in Canada in 1921 during an exhibition game between McGill and the NCAA's Syracuse Orangemen at Molson Stadium in Montreal.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll have a little bit more on the forward pass and the history of that in our history lesson.
Yep, and real quick, I guess I just want to say a builder, people hear you say inducted into the Hall of Fame as a builder. What does that mean? Well, a builder is just a like a front, not a front office, but a person that helped construct.
Right. There are players. There are players and there are builders. So sometimes coaches are builders.
Right.
Or it could be a team executive, a team owner maybe that did some great things to forward the game. So yeah, even the NFL has got that now. They've added a builder category to the.
I just know that's a term that I feel like a lot of fans probably aren't familiar with just yet. Right. So.
Yep, but yeah, he was. I think that was their inaugural class of Canadian Football Hall of Fame in 1963. So he was one of the first people in there.
Okay, and one more score.
The Canadian Junior Football League. It was the Edmonton Wildcats over the Calgary Colts by the score of 42-22.
Woo.
And that is it for this week's World of Football Scoreboard.
Man, oh man, what a week again.
Yeah, well, like I said, there's so many scores, and maybe I shouldn't have put all those blowouts and shutouts, but. Man, there was such a diverse amount of teams and scores and everything that I just found it fascinating.
Hey, of course. I mean, and if you guys got teams out there you like to follow, I mean, it's also nice to see what's going on everywhere else. So, like you might be a fan of one of these smaller Division 2 or 3 schools, and it's kind of nice getting a little highlight. Maybe your team got mentioned this week. Are you a Slippery Rock fan? I'd love to hear about it. I know Michigan loves Slippery Rock.
Yeah, they do.
But I think it's kind of cool that we highlight some of these smaller schools. It's unfortunate that we can't do all of them, but like I said, I will add the Benny Hill music, and we can just throw up all of them onto the video.
Well, between all these levels, at least in the United States, there's well over 700. I think it's close to 800 teams and schools, and you add the Canadian 2 levels of college football up there, and you could be talking 900 different schools and teams. So that's what 450 games a week.
Yeah,
it's just way too many.
I could fit maybe 10 on the screen at one time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but we just love talking about it, and I love seeing some of these teams you've never heard of and give their score.
Yep. All right.